The council chamber was falling apart. Not the building itself, but everything it stood for. Taehyun watched from his seat in the back row as two of the galaxy's most powerful species screamed at each other. Well, one screamed. The other made sounds that shattered glass. Ambassador Dalvor slammed his massive fist on the speaker's podium. The Vryn warrior stood 8 feet tall, covered in scales that looked like metal. His eyes glowed red with anger. On the other side of the chamber, resonance of truth vibrated with rage. The Taylor representative looked like a giant crystal, and when it was angry, it made sounds that hurt human ears. Taehyun sat next to his mentor, Ha-jun. The older diplomat had his eyes closed. He looked tired. Very tired. This is bad, Taehyun whispered. Worse than bad, Ha-jun replied without opening his eyes. This is the end of peace. The fight was about a place called the Eternum Sector. 7 planets floating in space far from both the Vryn Empire and the Taylor Collective. Both sides claimed the sector was theirs. Both sides had history books saying so. Both sides were ready to kill for it. The real problem was something called chronite. It was a rare element found in the Eternum Sector. Every spaceship in the galaxy needed chronite to travel faster than light. Without it, the galaxy would stop moving. Everyone would be trapped on their own worlds. The Vryn Empire has ancient rights to this sector. Dalvor roared. Our ancestors settled there 10,000 years ago. Resonance of truth made a sound like breaking ice. The translation devices everyone wore turned it into words. The Taylor Collective built temples there 12,000 years ago. It is our sacred ground. The Galactic Federation had 200 member species. All of them were choosing sides. Some supported the Vryn, some supported the Taylor. A few tried to stay neutral, but neutrality was becoming impossible. 3 weeks ago, Vryn mining ships had entered the sector. They started taking chronite. The Taylor responded by building an energy wall around the entire sector. The Vryn destroyed the wall. 3,000 Taylor engineers died in the explosion. The Taylor attacked a Vryn colony world in revenge. They destroyed military bases but killed no civilians. The Vryn saw this as weakness. The Taylor saw it as mercy. Neither side understood the other anymore. Now both sides had their war fleets ready. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, weapons that could destroy planets. The Federation Council tried to vote on what to do. The vote failed. Most species were too afraid to get involved. If the Federation tried to stop both sides, the Federation itself might be destroyed. Taehyun was only 34 years old. He was a junior diplomat. Nobody important. He had joined the Federation Diplomatic Service because he believed problems could be solved with words, not weapons. His friends back on Earth had laughed at him. They said he was naive. Maybe they were right. After the council session ended in chaos, Ha-jun called Taehyun to his office. Kyung-soo was already there. Kyung-soo was the human military liaison, a former soldier who now worked with diplomats. He looked even more tired than Ha-jun. The Vryn are giving everyone 48 hours, Kyung-soo said. Then they attack. And the Taylor? Taehyun asked. They activated their ancient defense system, Kyung-soo replied. Weapons that haven't been used in 4,000 years. Planet-sized weapons. Ha-jun poured 3 glasses of Korean soju. He handed them out. I'm putting together a last mediation team. Taehyun, I want you on it. Taehyun blinked. Me? Why? Because you still believe peace is possible, Ha-jun said softly. The rest of us gave up weeks ago. But if you gave up, why send a team at all? Because every day we delay the war is another day to evacuate civilians, Ha-jun explained. I don't expect you to succeed. I just need you to try. That night, Taehyun could not sleep. He went to the Federation archives and started reading. He read about the Vryn Empire. They were warriors. Honor meant everything to them. They valued strength and courage. They built their empire by conquering other worlds, but they were not cruel. They followed rules of war. They respected worthy enemies. He read about the Taylor Collective. They were ancient, older than most species in the galaxy. They were made of living crystal. They thought differently from other species. What looked like empty space to humans was full of harmonics to the Taylor. They saw the universe as a song, and everything had its place in the music. Then Taehyun read about the Eternum Sector. The records were confusing. Both the Vryn and Taylor had historical claims. Both sides had archaeological evidence. But something felt wrong. The evidence did not quite match up. The Vryn claimed they had settled the sector alone. but some of their ancient artifacts used technology that looked like Taylor designs. The Taylor claimed the sector was pure Taylor territory, but their temple ruins included metalworking that the Taylor never used. They did not work with metal at all. At 3 in the morning, Tae-hyun had an idea. It was a crazy idea, probably impossible, but he was too tired to care about impossible. The next morning, he presented his idea to Ha-jun. The old diplomat listened in silence. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. You want to send Vrin and Taylor together to explore the sector? Ha-jun shook his head. They'll kill each other before they leave the station. Maybe, Tae-hyun admitted. But what if there's something in the sector that both sides missed? What if the truth is different from what everyone believes? The truth doesn't matter, Ha-jun said. Both sides need this war now. The Vrin Emperor is dying. Their law says a new emperor must expand the empire before taking the throne. The Taylor need the Chronite desperately. Their home star is dying and they need Chronite to power the machines keeping it alive. So both sides have no choice? Both sides believe they have no choice, Ha-jun corrected. That's worse. Tae-hyun spent the whole day trying to arrange a meeting with Dalvor and Resonance of Truth. Both refused. He tried again. And again. Finally, Ha-jun used his influence to force the meeting. They met in a neutral room with heavy security. Dalvor arrived in full armor. Resonance of Truth brought guards. Tae-hyun came alone. He explained his idea. Both leaders stared at him like he was insane. You want us to work together? Dalvor's laugh sounded like rocks grinding. Human, you understand nothing. Resonance of Truth made a sound of disgust. This is human foolishness. There is nothing to discover. We know our history. Do you? Tae-hyun challenged. Then explain why Vrin artifacts in the sector use Taylor energy patterns. Explain why Taylor temples there include Vrin metalworking. Both leaders went silent. 7 days, Tae-hyun said. Give me 7 days with a small team. We go to the sector. We find the truth. If we find nothing, you lose a week. If we find something important, maybe nobody has to die. Dalvor and Resonance of Truth looked at each other. For the first time, they were thinking the same thing. Both needed time to move their fleets into better positions. Both had civilians they wanted to evacuate. 7 days could save millions of lives even if the war still happened. 7 days, Dalvor agreed. No military ships. No weapons. If you find nothing, the war begins. Resonance of Truth hummed agreement. 7 days. But we choose who represents us. Our people will watch yours closely, human. After they left, Kyung-soo grabbed Tae-hyun's shoulder. You just volunteered to fly into the middle of the most dangerous place in the galaxy, with people who hate each other. Are you insane? Tae-hyun smiled weakly. Probably. But at least we have 7 days. 7 days to do the impossible, Ha-jun muttered. I hope you know what you're doing. Tae-hyun did not know. But he knew one thing about humans that the galaxy always underestimated. Humans were very good at doing impossible things. The human ship Sejong was not built for this. It was a research vessel, small and unarmed. Now it carried 6 people who did not trust each other on a mission that would probably fail. Tae-hyun stood in the ship's main cabin, looking at his team. Ji-won sat at a computer studying old maps of the Eternum sector. She was 29, brilliant with ancient history but terrible with people. She had not looked up since they left the station. Kyung-soo checked weapons that they were not supposed to have. The military man had insisted on bringing guns just in case. Tae-hyun pretended not to notice. Young Mi, the human xenobiologist, tried to make everyone comfortable. At 52, she was the oldest human on the ship. She had spent 30 years studying alien species. She understood them better than most aliens understood themselves. Then there were the 2 aliens. Commander Vorth stood in the corner, arms crossed. The Vrin warrior was Dalvor's daughter, though she had not spoken her father's name once. She wore light armor and carried herself like someone ready to fight at any moment. Her scales were darker than her father's, almost black. Her eyes watched everything. Clarity and darkness sat as far from Vorth as possible. The tailor looked like a person made of blue crystal. Light moved through their body in patterns. Young Mi had explained that Taylor communicated partly through these light patterns, but humans could only see some of them. The first day was silent. Vorth and Clarity and Darkness refused to be in the same room. Tae-hyun spent hours going between them, trying to get them to talk. It did not work. The second day was worse. Vorth started her morning meditation, which involved practicing combat moves. She moved fast and hit hard. The sound scared Jiwon, who hid in her room. Clarity and darkness made angry sounds that gave everyone headaches. Young Mi tried to help. She explained Vrin culture to Clarity and darkness. She explained Taylor culture to Vorth. Both aliens listened politely and then ignored everything she said. On the third day, something changed. The ship's engine made a strange noise. Then it made a worse noise. Then it stopped completely. They floated in space, dead in the water. Kyung-soo went to the engine room. He came back looking worried. The main power crystal cracked, he said. We need to replace it, but we don't have a spare. How long can we survive? Taehyun asked. 3 days on emergency power. Then life support fails. Vorth stepped forward. Let me see the engine. Kyung-soo frowned. You know human ship engines? I know power systems, Vorth replied. All warriors learn engineering. A soldier who cannot fix their own ship is a dead soldier. They went to the engine room. Vorth studied the broken crystal for a long time. Then she shook her head. This cannot be fixed. The crack goes too deep. We need a new crystal. But human power crystals are different from Vrin designs. Clarity and darkness appeared in the doorway. Their light patterns flickered. Let me examine it. Vorth stiffened. Why? Taylor know nothing of engines. We know crystals, Clarity and darkness said simply. That is a crystal. Let me see. For a moment, Vorth looked ready to refuse. Then she stepped aside. Clarity and darkness touched the broken crystal. Light flowed from their fingers into the crack. They hummed, and the sound made the crystal vibrate. The crack follows the crystal's natural fault lines, Clarity and darkness said. I cannot repair it, but... They paused. If we had the right energy pattern, we could create a bridge across the crack. The crystal would work at reduced power. What kind of energy pattern? Vorth asked. Something that can conduct through crystal but also through the metal housing. Taylor energy works in crystal. Vrin energy works in metal. But not both. Jiwon suddenly spoke from behind them. She had been so quiet they forgot she was there. Human electricity works in both, she said nervously. Our technology is based on electrons which move through many materials. What if we used human power to connect Taylor and Vrin techniques? Everyone stared at her. Vorth looked at Clarity and darkness. Could that work? The Taylor's light patterns changed. Possibly. If the Vrin can create a conductive path in the metal, and I can stabilize the crystal structure, human electricity could bridge the gap. Possibly is not good enough, Kyung-soo said. If this fails, we lose our emergency power too. Then we die faster. If we do nothing, we die anyway, Taehyun pointed out. Let's try. They worked for 6 hours. Vorth used tools to create tiny channels in the metal housing. Her hands were steady and precise. Clarity and darkness sang to the crystal, their harmonics gradually changing its structure. Jiwon calculated power flows and adjusted the human electrical system. Kyung-soo and Young Mi watched, ready to help, but not knowing how. Taehyun watched Vorth and Clarity and darkness work. They did not speak to each other, but they did not need to. Vorth would finish one part and Clarity and darkness would immediately start the next. It was like watching a dance. Finally, Jiwon said, Ready, should I restore power? Everyone held their breath. Jiwon pressed the button. The crystal glowed. Power flowed through the crack, held together by Vrin metalwork, Taylor harmonics, and human electricity. The engine hummed back to life. Kyung-soo checked the readings. 80% power. Not perfect, but enough to reach the Eternum sector. Vorth looked at Clarity and darkness. She raised her fist to her chest in a Vrin salute. It was a gesture of respect between warriors. Clarity and darkness's light patterns shifted to colors that Young Mai said meant gratitude and acknowledgement. They did not become friends that day. But they stopped being enemies. 2 days later, they reached the Eternum sector. 7 planets orbited a yellow sun. From space, they could see the ruins. Massive cities covered entire continents. Towers that reached into the clouds. Roads connecting everything, all of it abandoned. All of it silent. How many people lived here? Kyung-soo asked quietly. Jiwon? Taehyun looked at the archaeologist. Jiwon's fingers moved across her computer. Billions. Maybe 4 billion at the height. This was one of the largest civilizations in the galaxy. And they all just left? Young Mi asked. Or died? Jiwon said softly. They landed on the largest planet, Eternum Prime. The city around them had buildings in many styles. Some looked Vrin, some looked Taylor, Some looked like nothing anyone had ever seen. Jiwan led them through the ruins to the center of the city. There stood a massive building, different from all the others. It was still working. Lights glowed in the windows. Power hummed through the walls. An archive, Jiwan whispered. It's still active after 8,000 years. They entered carefully. Inside, holographic displays covered the walls. Ancient computers still processed information. And in the center of the main room stood a control panel. Clarity and Darkness and Vorth approached the panel together. It had controls for both Vryn and Taylor systems. They looked at each other, and without speaking, both reached out at the same time. The archive came alive. Holograms filled the room. Images of people, Vryn and Taylor, walking together through these same streets, working together in laboratories, teaching each other's children, living together. Impossible, Vorth breathed. Clarity and Darkness made no sound at all. Taehyun watched the holograms and felt his heart race. This was it. This was the truth they needed. Then alarms started blaring. The room's walls began to glow red. A voice spoke in a language 8,000 years dead, but the translation was clear. Security protocol activated. Unauthorized access detected. Self-destruct in 24 hours. Heavy doors slammed shut around them. They were trapped inside with the only evidence that could stop the war. And in one day it would all be destroyed. 24 hours to live. That was all they had. Taehyun forced himself to stay calm. Panicking would not help. He looked at his team. Kyungsoo was already checking the doors, looking for a way out. Jiwon stared at the holographic displays, her eyes wide with fascination despite the danger. Young Mai tried to access the archive's computer systems. Vorth and Clarity and Darkness stood very still. We need to split up, Taehyun said. We have two problems. First, stop the self-destruct. Second, download everything in this archive before it explodes. Three problems, Kyungsoo added. We're locked in. Even if we stop the bomb, we need to find a way out. Then we need 3 teams, Taehyun decided. Vorth and Kyungsoo find the self-destruct system. Jiwon, Youngmi, and Clarity and Darkness download everything you can. I'll try to communicate with the archive's computer and find an exit. They moved fast. The archive was huge, with corridors going in every direction. Maps on the walls showed hundreds of rooms. Storage chambers, computer cores, power systems, everything. Jiwon and her team went to the main storage chamber. Holographic records filled the space like a library of light. Jiwon's hands trembled as she connected her equipment to the ancient systems. This is incredible, she whispered. Complete records of an entire civilization. Daily life, politics, science, art, everything. Young Mai helped her set up the download. How long will it take? Too long. We can't download everything. We need to choose what matters most. Clarity and Darkness moved among the holograms. Their light patterns flickered rapidly as they processed information. Then they stopped at one display. It showed the history of the Eternum sector. 10,000 years ago, both Vryn and Taylor had arrived at the sector. They fought 3 small wars. Then something changed. A Vryn scientist named Corvin met a Taylor named Harmonious Dawn. They created a translation device that let both species truly understand each other for the first time. They became friends. That simple friendship led to a peace treaty. The Eternum Accord. Both species agreed to share the sector. Over the next 1,000 years, Vryn and Taylor built a joint civilization. They combined technologies. Vryn strength with Taylor precision, Taylor harmony with Vryn courage. Together they created something neither species could have built alone. The sector became home to 4 billion people. Vryn, Taylor, and children who were taught both cultures from birth. Then disaster struck. A rogue stellar mass, a dead star, came through the sector on a collision course. The people tried to evacuate. Ships carried billions to safety, but there was not enough time. 1.2 billion people died. The survivors scattered across the galaxy, traumatized and broken. Over the next 8,000 years, both species rewrote their history. The Vryn focused on their territorial claims, erasing memories of cooperation. The Taylor made the sector sacred, forgetting it had been shared. Eventually, no one remembered the truth. Clarity and Darkness's light patterns turned dark blue. Youngmi recognized it as the Taylor sign of grief. We forgot, Clarity and Darkness said quietly. We forgot we had brothers. Meanwhile, Vorth and Kyungsoo searched for the self-destruct control. They moved through dark corridors following power conduits. The countdown showed on every display they passed. 20 hours, 19 hours, 18. You move well for a human, Vorth said. It was the first time she had spoken to Kyung-soo directly. I was a soldier before I became a diplomat's guard, Kyung-soo replied. You move well for someone carrying 50 kilos of armor. Vorth's eyes gleamed. Was that humor? Kyung-soo could not tell with Vrin. They found the core chamber. The self-destruct system sat in the center, pulsing with red light. Vorth studied it carefully. This is sophisticated. Too sophisticated. It needs both Vrin biointerface and Taylor harmonic input to disable. The people who built this place designed it so both species had to work together. Can you handle the Vrin part? Kyung-soo asked. Yes. But without a Taylor, we cannot stop it. Kyung-soo activated his communicator. Clarity and darkness, we need you. Now. The Taylor responded immediately. I'm coming, but the archive was huge. Clarity and darkness was kilometers away. The countdown showed 12 minutes. Ji-won's voice came through the communicator. I can guide you. These corridors follow a pattern. Take the third left, then straight for 200 meters, then Clarity and darkness ran. The Taylor were not built for running. Their crystalline bodies were heavy and rigid, but they ran anyway, following Ji-won's directions. The countdown reached 5 minutes. Parts of the archive started to seal off. Safety protocols activating. 3 minutes. Clarity and darkness reached a sealed door. It would not open. I am blocked, they said. In the core chamber, Vorth looked at Kyung-soo. Both knew what came next. Without speaking, they moved to the door controls. Together, they forced the door mechanism, holding it open manually. The door was heavy, made of metal designed to withstand explosions. Go, Vorth shouted to Clarity and darkness. We will hold. 1 minute. Clarity and darkness burst into the chamber. Vorth and Kyung-soo released the door and ran to the controls. 47 seconds. Vorth placed her hands on the biointerface. Her scales connected to the ancient system. Metal spoke to metal. Clarity and darkness began to sing. Their harmonics filled the chamber, connecting to the crystal core of the self-destruct system. 20 seconds. The system resisted. It had been programmed 8,000 years ago by the smartest people of that age. It did not want to be stopped. 10 seconds. Vorth closed her eyes. She thought of her ancestors who had built this place with Taylor partners. She thought of the friends they must have been. Clarity and darkness thought the same. Their light patterns synchronized with Vorth's biorhythms. For a moment, Vrin and Taylor became one. 3 seconds. The self-destruct disengaged. The red lights turned green. The alarm stopped. Silence filled the chamber. Kyung-soo let out a breath he had been holding for what felt like an hour. Vorth dropped to one knee, exhausted. Clarity and darkness's light patterns faded to a dim glow. Then Vorth did something she had never done to a non-Vrin. She raised her fist to her chest and bowed her head to Clarity and darkness. It was the warrior's salute, reserved for those who saved your life in battle. Clarity and darkness responded with the Taylor harmonic of family bond. It was a sound Taylor made only to their closest relatives. In that moment, 8,000 years of separation ended. The team reunited in the main chamber. Ji-won had downloaded as much as she could. Gigabytes of information. History, science, art. Proof that Vrin and Taylor had once been partners. Tae-hyun looked at the data, then at his team. They had found the truth. Now they had to bring it back. They had to show the galaxy what had been forgotten. But as they prepared to leave, the ship's sensors picked up something. Vorth checked the readings and her scales turned pale. Both fleets have entered the sector, she said. They did not wait for our 7 days. The war has begun. Through the archive's windows, they saw it. Thousands of warships filled the sky. Vrin dreadnoughts faced Taylor battle spheres. Weapons charged. Shields activated, the first shots fired. Explosions lit up space like deadly fireworks. They had the truth. They had proof that could stop the war. But they were trapped on a planet in the middle of the largest battle the galaxy had seen in thousands of years, and no one knew they were there. The Sejong lifted off from Eternum Prime as explosions filled the sky. Tae-hyun gripped his seat as the small ship shook from nearby blasts. Through the windows, he watched the largest war in galactic history unfold. Vrin dreadnoughts fired kinetic rounds the size of buildings. The Taylor battle spheres responded with harmonic beams that tore through Vrin shields like paper. Ships exploded. Escape pods launched. Bodies floated in space. Kyung-soo piloted the ship through the chaos. He had been a fighter pilot once, but this was different. This was not combat. This was survival. "We need to broadcast our findings," Taehyun said. "Both fleets need to see what we found." Young-mi worked at the communications console. "I can't get through. Both sides have communication jammers active. Our signal is too weak." "Then we get closer," Taehyun decided. Kyung-soo looked at him like he was insane. "Closer? We're in an unarmed research ship. If we get closer, we die." "If we run away, billions die," Taehyun replied. "We didn't come this far to give up now." Ji-won started recording messages to her family. She was not optimistic about their chances, but Vorth stood. "The human is right. We must try. I will contact my mother." Clarity and Darkness joined her. "I will contact the collective. If we both call, perhaps they will listen." Kyung-soo sighed. "You're all insane. Fine, where are we going?" "Between them," Taehyun said. "Right between both fleets." The Sejong turned toward the battle. Kyung-soo flew between explosions, dodging debris and weapons fire. The ship was small enough to avoid most attention, but not all. A Vrin fighter locked onto them. Vorth activated her personal military codes. "Vrin fighter, this is Commander Vorth, daughter of Ambassador Dalvor. Stand down immediately." The fighter broke off. For a moment, they were safe. Then a Taylor weapons platform targeted them. Clarity and Darkness broadcast directly to it using the pattern of ultimate truth. It was the most sacred signal in Taylor culture. To use it falsely meant exile. But Clarity and Darkness was not lying. They had the truth. The weapons platform powered down. They reached the space between both fleets. Thousands of warships surrounded them. On one side, the Vrin flagship, a massive ship carrying Ambassador Dalvor. On the other side, the Taylor command sphere, where Resonance of Truth directed the battle. Young-mi broadcast on all frequencies. "This is the Eternum expedition. We carry proof that will end this war. All forces cease fire immediately." For 3.7 seconds, nothing happened. Ships kept firing. Soldiers kept dying. Then both Dalvor and Resonance of Truth gave the same order at the same moment. "Cease fire." Silence fell across the sector. Thousands of ships held their fire. Millions of soldiers waited. The Sejong broadcast the archive recordings to both fleets simultaneously. Every ship received the holographic data. Every soldier watched as the truth unfolded. They saw Vrin and Taylor living together, working together, raising children together. They saw the golden age of Eternum, when both species had been partners. They saw the disaster that scattered them. They saw how both sides had forgotten the truth over thousands of years. In the Vrin flagship, old warriors cried. They saw their ancestors defending Taylor civilians during the evacuation. They saw honor and sacrifice. In the Taylor command sphere, light patterns turned to colors of grief. They saw their predecessors teaching Vrin students. They saw harmony and cooperation, but not everyone accepted the truth. Extremists on both sides saw the broadcast as a trick. 6 Vrin destroyers and 4 Taylor frigates broke formation. They did not want peace. They wanted war. They all targeted the Sejong. Kyung-soo saw the weapons lock. They're firing. "I can't dodge all of them." Taehyun closed his eyes. They had tried. They had shown the truth. If they died now, at least they died knowing they had made a difference. Then something incredible happened. The Vrin flagship moved. Dalvor's massive warship positioned itself between the Sejong and the rogue Vrin destroyers. The flagship's shields extended, covering the small human ship. Dalvor's voice thundered across all channels. "Any warrior who fires on those who carry our ancestors' truth is no warrior of the Empire. Stand down or be destroyed." At the same moment, the Taylor command sphere moved to shield the Sejong from the Taylor frigates. Resonance of Truth's harmonics filled space with a message everyone understood. Those who would silence truth silence themselves. Cease your attack or face the collective's judgment. The 2 most powerful warships in their respective fleets, enemies just minutes ago, now protected a small human research vessel together. The rogue ship stopped. Their crews could not believe what they were seeing. Neither could anyone else. Dalvor requested permission to board the Sejong. So did Resonance of Truth. Both leaders, who had been ready to destroy each other, now wanted to meet face to face. The Sejong's small docking bay barely fit both of them. Dalvor had to duck to enter. Resonance of Truth's crystalline form barely squeezed through the door. They stood in the tiny cabin with the human crew. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Dalvor looked at his daughter, Vorth. "You worked with the tailor," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," Vorth replied, "as our ancestors did." "With honor." Resonance of truth turned to clarity and darkness. "You saved the Vryn warrior's life." "We saved each other," clarity and darkness corrected. "As our ancestors did." In harmony. Dalvor and Resonance of Truth looked at each other. Really looked, perhaps for the first time. They saw not enemies, but people. People whose ancestors had once been friends. Taehyun stepped forward. "The Eternum sector was shared once. It can be shared again. Neither of you needs to lose. Both of you can win." "How?" Dalvor asked. "Our Emperor needs territorial expansion. Our laws demand it. Expansion through cooperation is still expansion," Vorth said quietly. "Our ancestors understood that," Resonance of Truth hummed. "We need chronite for our dying star. Without it, our home dies." "Half of Eternum's chronite is more than you have now," Clarity and Darkness said. "Cooperation is not sacrifice. It is survival." Young Mi pulled up data on her computer. "The sector has enough chronite for both species for the next 1,000 years. If you share it equally, both your problems are solved." Jiwan added, "You could rebuild one of the old cities together, a symbol of what your ancestors achieved." New Eternum. Dalvor was silent for a long time. Then he said, "My fleets are positioned for war, not peace. My soldiers want revenge for our dead. Our dead want us to remember," Vorth said, "not to add more death to death." Resonance of Truth's harmonics wavered. "My people believe the sector is sacred. Sharing it feels like betrayal." "It was sacred because it was shared," Clarity and Darkness replied. "That is what made it holy." Outside, both fleets waited. Billions watched. The galaxy held its breath. Finally, Dalvor extended his hand. Not to Taehyun. Not to any human. To Resonance of Truth. "The Vryn Empire agrees to share the Eternum sector," he said, "as our ancestors did." Resonance of Truth touched Dalvor's hand with their crystalline fingers. The contact made a sound like a bell, pure and clear. "The Taylor Collective agrees," Resonance of Truth said. "Let us build together what was lost." The war ended. Not with a final battle, but with a handshake. Not with victory or defeat, but with memory and hope. Taehyun watched and felt tears on his face. Kyungsoo put a hand on his shoulder. Jiwon smiled for the first time in days. Young Mi quietly thanked every god she knew. Vorth and Clarity and Darkness stood together, looking at their leaders. Two people from enemy species who had become something more than friends. They had become proof that peace was possible. The galaxy had stood on the brink of war. One human had not stopped it alone, but he had started something that others could finish. Sometimes that was enough. 3 months after the war that never finished, Taehyun stood on Eternum Prime again. But this time he was not alone. Thousands of people worked around him. Vryn engineers operated massive machines. Taller scientists directed energy flows. Human coordinators helped both sides work together. New Eternum was rising from the ruins. The first building stood where ancient ones had fallen. Vryn metalwork combined with Taylor crystal technology. Human designs connected everything in ways neither species had considered. It was not easy. Old hatreds did not disappear overnight. Vryn and Taylor workers still argued. Sometimes they refused to cooperate. But every day it got a little better. Vorth walked up to Taehyun. She wore civilian clothes now instead of armor. She directed the Vryn construction teams. "The foundation is complete," she reported. "The first residential district will be ready in 2 months." Clarity and Darkness joined them. The Taylor led the science team studying the sector. "We have mapped all 7 planets. The chronite deposits are larger than we thought. There is enough for both our species for 2,000 years, not one." "Good news for once," Taehyun smiled. "How are your teams working together?" Vorth and Clarity and Darkness looked at each other. Vorth spoke first. "Better. The young ones adapt faster than we expected. They do not carry the old anger. They are learning to see each other as people, not enemies," Clarity and Darkness added. "Yesterday a Vryn child asked me to teach them Taylor harmonics. A year ago, that would have been unthinkable." Taehyun watched a mixed group of Vryn and Taylor workers installing a power system together. They moved efficiently, each understanding their role. It reminded him of how Vorth and Clarity and Darkness had disabled the self-destruct. Working as one, Hajun arrived from Earth that day. The old diplomat walked slowly through the construction site. his eyes taking in everything. When he reached Taehyun, he smiled. "You proved me wrong," Hajun said. "I thought peace was impossible. I was preparing for war." "I didn't do it alone," Taehyun replied. "Fourth, clarity in darkness, Jiwon, Youngmi, Kyungsoo. Everyone contributed, but you started it. You refused to accept that war was inevitable. That refusal changed everything." They walked to the memorial site. Jiwon had designed it based on ancient records. A large plaza with a holographic display in the center. The display showed the history of Eternum. All of it, the cooperation, the disaster, the separation, the reunion. "This will be dedicated next month," Hajun said. "Both Dalvor and Resonance of Truth will attend. It will be the first time both leaders appear together in public." "How are things back at the Federation?" Taehyun asked. Hajun sighed. "Complicated. Some species see Eternum as a model. 3 other territorial disputes are being resolved using similar approaches, but others resist. They say cooperation is weakness. Change is slow," Taehyun said. "But it is happening. Yes, and humans are now seen differently. We are no longer just the new species. We are mediators, bridge builders. The Federation is recruiting human diplomats for conflicts across the galaxy." That night, there was a celebration. The first building in New Eternum was complete. A community center where both Vryn and Taylor could gather. The opening ceremony brought together hundreds of workers. Food from both cultures filled long tables. Vryn warriors shared their traditional meals. Taylor offered energy supplements that tasted surprisingly good to humans. Young Mai had helped create fusion dishes that combined elements from all 3 species. Music played. Vryn drums met Taylor harmonics. The combination created something new, something beautiful. Kyungsoo found Taehyun at the edge of the celebration. The security chief held 2 cups of something that glowed blue. "Taylor beverage," Kyungsoo explained. "Clarity and darkness made it safe for humans. Tastes like starlight, whatever that means." They drank. It did taste strange, but not unpleasant. "I never thought we would survive that mission," Kyungsoo admitted. "When you said we should fly between both fleets, I was certain we would die." "I was pretty sure we would die too," Taehyun said. "But some things are worth dying for. Like stopping a war. Like giving people a choice. Everyone thought war was inevitable. We showed them it was not." A year passed. New Eternum grew from hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands of people. The city became famous across the galaxy. People came to see the place where ancient enemies became partners again. The first child was born in the new city. A Vryn baby delivered with help from Taylor Medical Technology and human doctors. The parents named him Corvin Harmonious after the ancient founders. Jai Ji-wan became the director of the Eternum Archaeological Institute. She spent her days studying the ancient civilization, documenting everything. Her work became required reading in universities across the galaxy. Youngmi wrote books about her experiences. Her writings on cross-species understanding became textbooks. She trained the next generation of xenobiologists and diplomats. Kyungsoo trained New Eternum Security Force, a mixed team of Vryn, Taylor, and humans who learned to work together. They became a model for integrated military units throughout the Federation. Hajun retired peacefully. He spent his final years on Earth, proud that his protege had accomplished what he thought impossible. Vorth and Clarity and Darkness remained in New Eternum, leading the reconstruction. Their partnership became legendary. Books were written about them. Children across the galaxy learned their story. 5 years after the war that almost was, the Galactic Federation held a ceremony at New Eternum. The city now housed 400,000 people. Vryn, Taylor, humans, and dozens of other species, all living together. They dedicated the Memorial Archive, a building containing the complete history of Eternum. Every species could access it. Learn from it, remember. Taehyun attended the ceremony. He was 39 now, with gray hair from stress. He had turned down offers to lead diplomatic departments, to represent Earth at the Federation Council, to write his memoirs. He wanted to keep doing what he loved. Solving problems, helping people find solutions, making the impossible possible. A young student approached him after the ceremony. She was Vryn Taylor, mixed heritage, wearing the uniform of New Eternum Academy, the first integrated school in the sector. "Diplomat Taehyun?" she asked nervously. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did you know it would work? How did you know peace was possible?" Taehyun thought about that day when he proposed the expedition. When everyone said it was impossible, when even his mentor thought they would fail. He thought about the engine breaking and bringing Vorth and Clarity and Darkness together, about finding the archive, about flying between two war fleets, about all the impossible moments that led to peace. I did not know, he said honestly. None of us knew. We just refused to accept that war was the only answer. Sometimes the most human thing you can do is believe something impossible can become possible. The student nodded slowly. Then she said something that made his eyes water. My grandfather fought in the fleet that day. He was about to fire on a Taylor ship. Then he saw your transmission. He says you gave him his life back. A life worth living instead of dying for nothing. Without you, my parents would never have met. Without you, I would not exist, she smiled. Half her face showed Vryn features. Half showed Taylor crystalline patterns. She was proof that the impossible had become real. That night, Tae-hyun stood on a balcony overlooking New Eternum. The city lights spread out below him. Vryn Tower stood next to Taylor spires. Human designs connected them all. 3 species, building something together. The galaxy had stood on the brink of war. One human had not stopped it alone. But he had shown everyone that another path existed. And sometimes showing people a different possibility was all it took to change everything. Vorth joined him on the balcony. Thinking about the past? Thinking about the future, Tae-hyun replied. Look at what we built. Look at what is possible when people choose cooperation over conflict. Our ancestors knew this once, Vorth said. We forgot. But we remembered. Because of you. Because of all of us, Tae-hyun corrected. I just asked the question. You and Clarity and Darkness found the answer. Clarity and Darkness appeared, their light patterns glowing softly in the darkness. We all found the answer together. As it should be. They stood together, 3 friends from 3 species watching the city they had helped create. A city that should not exist. A piece that everyone said was impossible. But it was real. It was possible. And it would endure. Because sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to accept the impossible. One person asking, what if there is another way? One person believing that enemies can become partners. That hatred can become understanding. That war can become peace. The galaxy had learned that lesson. And it would never forget again.